Morning.
Okay, good morning, Liam. We're back again. This is Liam Amar. He's running for Congress. Welcome, Liam. Can you tell us what district are you in?
I'm in the 42nd down in Southwest Riverside County, just over the mountains from LA and Orange County.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for being here today, Liam. Could you tell us a little bit about your candidacy?
Sure. For myself, I was a first generation college student from a working class family. I didn't go to college till I was 30, and I'm now a PhD professor of history. And I got into this because I'm tired of looking my students in the eyes and trying to explain to them that they're being screwed by an economy that's leaving behind most Americans. After 40 years of neoliberalism and significant declines in the real economy, we need to, from my perspective, get back to some of the New Deal spirit and get back to actually bringing more people along instead of just the stock market.
Okay. So, we have a lot of questions from our audience, but before we get into that, I think I'd like to give you a chance to just describe what's the important issues in your district that are really important to your constituents.
Well, there are a lot of things that stand out to different people in the district. For a lot of working people, they will notice that we don't have a lot of good jobs in the district, which means that more than a third of the population commute out of the county to work. And that gives us tremendous traffic and pollution. Not to mention all the warehousing jobs that come to the area also bringing in the pollution, but no actual tax revenue. So the lack of good jobs. There's also a lack of real education. There's not a single university anywhere in the district. So we're connected to the LA metropolitan area, but we're basically like a dumping ground for them as opposed to a vital part of it. And that stands out to a lot of people. The costs are also climbing steadily. The housing costs are getting incredible. It's pushing out a lot of the people that already lived here with all these new bedroom communities. The cost of everything is shooting up. Housing costs are one, healthcare costs are another that are shooting up. So basic quality of life stuff really stand out to people.
Yeah, and that's especially going to be true now, given what's going on in California and the economy. Now, the title of our presentation here is The Future of California. And certainly we've got a lot of questions for the candidates about the future of California. And at your level, since you're running for Congress, what's your role can be. And we've heard about a stimulus package over the last couple of weeks that's being negotiated. I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but it sounds to me like California is going to need it. You have a view on this?
Absolutely. And in fact, I'm infuriated that we've handled this so very badly. I mean, most other rich countries, they didn't bother letting people get unemployed at all. They used wage subsidies to keep people at their jobs and let them stay at home or go part-time, which meant you don't have any of the costs associated with losing your jobs, to say nothing else of, once we go into unemployment for it, then you have the stretch out there. Once that's expired, then you have people facing evictions and everything else. We're going to have a huge mess here. One of the things that there's a difference between the federal government and the state government. The state government does have to stick within its basic budget. It can tax and then spend, otherwise it takes on debt. The federal government doesn't have the same constraints. And problems with the federal budget and with the federal tax code are one of the reasons that California's taxes are so high, and California is constantly struggling to make its own bills. If we can make changes there and then push through a stimulus at the state level, then we can take care of a lot of Californians and not leave so many people behind.
Okay, great. So I asked this question already this year because if you probably saw the debates, the vice presidential debate this past week, and you can see that the parties are far apart on a lot of issues, for sure. And one of our attendees has asked that given that the parties are so far apart on the issues, how do you think California can get back to a unity?
I think we have to get back to talking to each other. And I think that just involves a bit of a mental shift. We've fallen into a kind of extreme tribalism, and that's been fed both by the parties and by major media, stopping ordinary people from talking because it's advantageous to have your bases fighting over basic issues. At the end of the day, most of us don't really want much different. I mean, we want a good life for our kids. We want a clean environment to live in. We want a good job. We want a nice, stable house that we can afford. People want the same basic things, but they don't know how to get there. And if we can't talk to each other at all, we're never going to get there. And I think that a lot of times people will either shut out completely and not talk at all, or you end up just recycling the same kind of talking points that work for you and assume that the other side will just naturally get it. And that's just not how it works. We have to be willing to understand where someone else is coming from and then frame our arguments in a way that makes sense.
Okay, and for our new attendees who are just joining, if you've got questions, go ahead and type them into the Q&A box. This is Roger Royce talking to Liam O'Mara, who's running for Congress. You know, I think you said that your background is as an educator. So you must have some views on education and what the federal government should be or could be doing in that regard.
I mean, our spending has been falling per capita when it needs to be going up. I mean, if we're going to be positioned for a 21st century workforce, we needed to be preparing for that a long time ago and not leaving behind so many people. I mean, it's a simple fact that tons of our jobs have been disappearing for years, and 47% of our remaining jobs are at risk of disappearing due to automation. So what are we supposed to do? Let tens of millions of Americans go permanently unemployed and then figure out what to do there? Or do we prepare for jobs that are still going to be around and where areas that we can still compete? I mean, there's a reason that the Germans generally have a 3% unemployment rate. They train people for jobs that still exist in the country. We're still thinking about the mid-20th century and trying to recover old industries there. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Education has a big part to play in that. And that's true all the way through, from primary education through to tertiary, to colleges. I want to make not only public colleges and universities tuition free, but also trade schools, so that people have the opportunity to build a skill that will last them a lifetime and actually keep them employed and happy.
Okay, I got a tough one for you. I've been watching the news this week, and I see that Speaker Pelosi has proposed an expansion of congressional power under the 25th Amendment to actually maybe remove a sitting president if she needs to do so. I don't quite understand it, you know, because it's news to me, but it sounds to me like Congress, if this happens, is going to be a much more powerful organization and way more important. So I wonder if you have any comments on that at all.
But not as much on the specific policy, although I would caution people that this constant tit for tat in pursuing power tends to have unintended consequences when the other side wins. And it just deepens the overall tribalism that stops us from actually talking and solving real problems. But the simple fact is, we have had an imperial presidency for many decades. The Congress does need to be more powerful, and it does need to reclaim a lot of the prerogatives that it used to have. And so I would push for Congress to be a more powerful body, but in line with what it was supposed to be under the Constitution.
Yeah, you know, you've mentioned that a couple of times, that the tribalism. I'm gathering that you may come from that old school of politician that's a little more cooperative and willing to reach across the aisle and do business with the other side. Is that a fair assessment?
Probably not, depending on how you mean it. Because I don't think that we should be compromising our principles, and that's generally what that means. When you reach across the aisle and be bipartisan, you're basically walking in and surrendering. Oh yes, we'll do whatever you like, and that's not how you do this. You come in with much stronger arguments, much bolder plans, and then if you meet in the middle, you're actually getting what you were hoping for to begin with. But you push a lot harder. For me, it's more a matter of personal ethics. Of politeness and diplomacy, of being willing to talk to someone without saying, hey, you're stupid, and cut them out, but not being willing to back down on principles. Because the key for me is, if we can't talk about things, if we can't articulate our arguments in a way that makes sense to someone, we're not really going to get anywhere. We're just going to be stuck here. It's a matter of winning the arguments, in a sense, of convincing people of your position, not caving to theirs.
Okay, you know, we got a few more minutes, so I guess I'll ask you one last thing. Another big issue is that we've been hearing, especially in the presidential campaign, is about law and order and the role of government and whether government is too heavy-handed. I guess I would ask you, is there a federal solution here? Should the federal government be stepping in at the local level in either way, either to provide more provide more law enforcement, or maybe to enforce maybe some federal, let's say, individual rights. Do you have a view on this?
But quite honestly, I think that we have an offensive level of fear mongering in this country. Crime rates have been falling for decades. Americans are safer than we've ever been. So the fact that we're constantly talking about increasing law enforcement powers and locking more people up really bothers me. We have 1/4 of the entire world's prison population. We have more people incarcerated than China, India, and Indonesia combined, with a population of 3 billion people. I think that what we should be doing is backing away from a lot of the pointless laws that have been put in to put so many people in jail in the first place, so that we don't have to focus on such an extreme policing presence. And in terms of policing problems in general, I think the only real federal role there, since it is overwhelmingly a local and then state matter, is to impose some basic standards. I would like to see more de-escalation training, because cities that use it, municipalities that use it, see dramatic improvements in relations between police and community. And I'd like to see more training for police in general. Police in the United States generally have less than a year of training. In most of the Western world, it's 2 to 3 years. And I think that also leaves people more poorly equipped to handle the wide range of situations that they'll find themselves in the contemporary world. So I think that things would be better both for us and for the police if we just had them better trained to begin with.
Okay, last question. If someone wants to get involved in your campaign, how do they find you?
The website is super easy, liamomara.org, liamomara.org. There's a little volunteer and donate links at the very top there. I'm also super active on social media and pretty responsive there, so it's pretty easy to get a hold of me.
Okay, thank you, Liam O'Mara for Congress, for being with us today.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.